The Louisville Cardinals have landed one of my favorite defensive backs from the state of Florida.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the portal for your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I am Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Right now, also, the Louisville Cardinals are happy because Jaydin Broadnax has committed from West Boca High School in South Florida. This is one of the best players in the state at just making plays on the football. 6'3", about 175 pounds. And I'm telling you, he is underrated. I have him a little bit higher than some other people, and I'll be doing my Florida rankings coming up very shortly. But here is the key, looking at the bottom line. West Boca won the 6A state title. Broadnax was a mainstay on that defense. Statistically, 39 tackles. Of the 30 times he had a pass come his way, 9 receptions. He only gave up 60 yards, no touchdowns, 14 pass breakups, 1 pick. That is production. And when I watched him at Under Armour here recently, this is a young man that also had the ability to play against top players. It's not just racking up stats against high school kids. It's just in general, Jaden Broadnax makes plays against guys that are going to college. And again, the length is there, the athleticism is there, and the production is there. To that point, let's talk a little bit about what Louisville does in general. They do their own evaluations. I love how Louisville recruits. I'm going to talk a little bit about them more broadly in a few minutes, but just want to give a quick shout out to their staff. They get in on kids early. Jaden could have picked a host of other programs, but he decided on Louisville because they went after him early. They targeted him. They gained his trust and built a relationship with him and his family. And that is just absolutely the way it's done. You're not going to win big-time recruiting battles out of state in South Florida unless you do those things. I don't care about the NIL aspect. I don't care about how many people he knew attended Louisville or had any connection. I don't even know the kid that well, but I'm telling you, relationships are the key. And Louisville is one of the best programs in the country at building relationships in the Sunshine State. So as far as Under Armour, just want to go over a few highlights of why I like him. Then we'll talk about his recruiting ranking. Number one, when I saw him, I was curious. Okay, he's really long. I'm just sitting there watching him, like do warm-ups and all that kind of stuff. He's really, really long. He looked that part on film, but it's different when you see it with your own eye. And I was just impressed, like looking at the length. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to look like. In Louisville, again, they did their own due diligence, and several other schools did too, but they went out. And when I watched him change direction, this is a kid that's at least 6'2". I'm like, it's not out of the question he could play corner in some schemes. I like him best at free safety. That is steadfast. But he's also a guy that played man coverage, did pretty well. I'm not surprised that teams wanted him, but I am going to go out and say that regardless of where he goes, there's a chance he can play multiple roles. I don't care what scheme it is. You still got to play nickel and dime defense. And regardless, you're in cover 4 or whatever it is, the way teams play today, your safeties are more or less going to be in man coverage a great deal of the time. This is the kind of kid that can adjust to that. When you put somebody over the top, okay, he can help out, run to the boundary. He's fast. He's got the length, all of that. But when he has to go out there and it's 5 wide, you're basically in man. Can you handle that as a safety? Most teams get exposed. Broadnax can do it. He's also a kid that is physical enough to handle the run game, quarterback run, draw plays, etc. I can see why he was recruited so heavily. Now, let's talk about him from a perspective of the recruiting rankings. And everybody has their own take on a kid like this. He's actually pretty difficult to evaluate because of what I just said a moment ago. Where exactly do you feel he's going to end up position-wise, like his main position? And that's debatable. On3 likes him at safety. And again, everybody has their own opinion, but I could see him being a nickel, depending on who they're playing. It may change from week to week. So On3 and 24/7 have him as a 3-star. Both of them don't have him in their top 250, but On3 has him as number 33 safety, 24/7 as the number 25. I think that he's a little bit better than that, but again, my rankings for Florida will come out over the next week or so. ESPN has him the highest. They have Broadnax as the 198th player in the country, the number 20 safety, and the 32nd player in Florida. Rivals has him as number 234 player in the country, the 15th safety, and number 33 player in Florida. For the record, on three is 86 and 24/7, 841 for where he's at in the state of Florida. But I think this is a young man that will rise in the rankings a little bit more than what he's at now. Maybe not like a ton in general, but I think everybody, when the cycle is over, will have him as a 4-star. I don't think he's going to end up as a 5-star by anybody. He still has to fill out his body. But if he ended up in the top 100, playing at West Boca, which is one of the better programs in South Florida now, that shouldn't be surprising to anybody. He's a really good football player, and quite frankly, I could see him being a guy that gets more offers, especially as he goes through the process. Phone's going to ring. Somebody's going to offer him, and who knows who it's going to be. But I'm telling you right now, this is a kid that can play. Do not be surprised if he makes a dent at Louisville right out the gate. When we come back, we're going to talk again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. Louisville just does a great job in the state of Florida. I'm going to give some highlights from their last 4 classes right here on the Portal. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team or a late-game rally, picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I miss out on an opportunity. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Louisville does a tremendous job in the Sunshine State. The numbers back it up, not only in totality of signees, but in impact players. So we're going to talk about signees first over the last 4 classes, and then 2 of them that have completely hit the ground running from the time they got to Louisville. So from 2022 through 2025, every class had 4 players, and here are the exact numbers. 2022 had 4, 2023 had 4, 2024 had 4, and then in 2025, it went up another notch to 5. In 2023, they signed Stanquan Clark out of Central High School in Miami. I remember seeing him at the spring game that they had a big spring jamboree, and he was one of the best players there. And I'm like, way underrated. He was like a low to mid 3-star by most people. And I'm like, this kid's going to go in and play somewhere. I didn't at the time had no idea where he was going to go, but I remember talking to people at different schools. Miami was there, Florida State, etc. Nobody really made a run on him as hard as Louisville did, and that's why he picked Louisville. Well, here are the stats as a sophomore for Clark this past season. 76 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, a half sack, 2 picks, and 2 pass breakups. He's a 3-down linebacker. Miami Central, it's not real shocking, and he is a thumper. This past season, they got one of the most electric players, one of my favorite players, in the country out of Homestead High School, another South Florida kid just south of Miami, and that's Isaac Brown. The running back was ridiculous. Here are his numbers. Again, this is a true freshman, roughly 190 pounds, 5'9", just yoked. 165 carries, 1,173 yards, 7.1 yards per carry, and 11 scores. He only had a couple of games where he didn't really go off. Even against good defenses like SMU and Notre Dame, etc., he averaged over 5 yards a carry. This guy can score from anywhere. He is electric. And quite frankly, he's the kind of player that can make a play in the passing game, the kick return game, and of course, a direct handoff. It doesn't matter. Whenever Isaac Brown has the football, he can make something happen. Again, some of the Florida schools and some of the other schools down south didn't like his size. Didn't matter to Louisville. They went after him early, and he has been absolutely tremendous. reminds me a little bit, and I know this is extremely high praise, but he reminds me a lot of Marshall Faulk. That's the guy that I compare him to the most. He was from New Orleans. Most schools wanted him as a DB. He went to San Diego State, and the rest is history. I believe he ran for 380 yards in his very first game in college. That's on a whole nother level, but Isaac Brown is still a dude, and he's going to be a 3-and-out guy at Louisville. So the Cardinals find a way to get it done all the time, and it's because of their scouting and their ability to build relationships in Florida, and that's why they have a very good football program. Thank you once again for making the Locked On the Portal podcast your first listen each and every day. Please like the episode, hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell, and share the Locked On the Portal podcast. I'd love to have you back. Everybody have a good one, and we will see you again soon.